All right, everybody. This is Jeremy Roberts. I am with SeekOut, and it is Friday. It has been a crazy week, and so we are going to give you a half hour of some good information about talent intelligence as it applies to the talent acquisition space. We're super excited to be here with you guys. We did our first SeekOut virtual event in recent times last Friday. We had, we called it the SeekOut Showdown. And we had our first meeting and we had a competition where we picked a winner, and now that person has a power filter in SeekOut. So that was fun. So we thought we would do something every week. So we're back now. It is Friday. And so we're gonna do the competition probably every other time. And then on Fridays, the other Fridays, we'll do just a great topic to kind of educate the community about different things in the talent acquisition space. So one of the things, if you know me, you know I'm really passionate about sourcing and sourcing technology, and something that has always kind of been around sourcing is talent intelligence, and good sourcing leaders have always done it. And then if you've been paying attention over recent years, you've heard about the talent intelligence movement. And what I mean by that is instead of just being something that a good sourcing leader or recruiting leader does because it helps them in their job, there are actually entire functions at very reputable companies that are focused on talent intelligence. And so I think anytime that starts to happen, you know, people are starting to make some discoveries and understand how it really drives business. So I wanted to get some people on a quick hangout so that we could talk about that. I'm going to have them all introduce themselves, but we'll start with Marlieke. We've got Marlieke Pols. Go ahead, Marlieke. Tell everybody about yourself and what you do.
Hey, Jeremy, thank you so much for the introduction. So, hey, everyone. My name is Marlieke Pols, and I work as a talent intelligence manager within Philips, based out of the Netherlands. We within Philips have our own talent intelligence team as part of broader talent acquisition. And we're about, I think, around 15, no, 16. Okay, maybe 17 people at the moment.
Wow, that's bigger than I imagined. So
Yeah.
that is awesome. So we'll dive in deeper into that in a minute. I've got several topics I want to go through with the whole team. Next, we've got Allison Ettridge.
Hey, Jeremy, and thanks very much for inviting us to be on here. Really love it. I'm chief believer at a business called Talent Intuition, which has two strings to it. So it's got a talent intelligence consultancy string, which we deliver people intelligence projects to global corporates. And we also have a platform, Strategens, which is taking talent intelligence to the business intelligence community. So it's much more about the application of TI in the business world, very different SeekOut. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm called Chief Believer because I fundamentally believe in the role of talent intelligence.
That is awesome. So your role, you're saying if somebody's not building a team, but they still need that type of data, that's what you do. You're kind of the right. Outsourced version of what these others are doing internally.
Right. Yeah.
Excellent. Very cool. Now, Lyndon, Llanes, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Lyndon Llanes from Verizon, Talent Intelligence Manager, just outside of the New York area. We're a pretty small team. We're a core team of 3 or so data nerds, part of a larger team of 9. And this core team is 3 of us that are really specifically focused on the analytics and research. We're data scientists, we're analysts, we're IO psychologists and the HR specialists, all kind of combined into one pretty cool team. And we really are focused on helping build the business answers and sort of questions that we can kind of provide with the data. And you know, I think the favorite thing that I have with our team is like we're always finding new things and learning new things and analyzing cool stuff. Like, hey, you could get that out of there. I had no idea. It's like, oh, cool. We can use that and apply it and use some business intelligence out of it. So
that's awesome.
Fun stuff.
Well, very cool. I'm going to back up real quick. You know, I thought we were already live on Facebook, right? We're not going to start over, but I wanted to welcome the Facebook audience. So all you've missed so far is introductions. So really fast, we've got Marlieke Pols from Philips, and we've got Lyndon Llanes from Verizon, and then Allison Ettridge. What was the name of your consultancy again?
Talent Intuition.
Excellent. All right. So we've got the three of these people here, and we're talking about the talent intelligence movement today. So Marlieke introduced herself. She said that they have a team of 16 people at Philips. Allison is kind of the outsourced version of these teams. So if you're looking for talent intelligence, but you don't have the resources to hire a team, she focuses on that. And then Lyndon is with Verizon. They've got a team of 3 to 4. So that was a brief catch up for the people who just joined on Facebook. Now, I guess one question I have, this wasn't a planned question, but it came to mind as you guys were talking, and I'll start with Lyndon. Do the people on your team, did they have a talent acquisition background, or were they data people who have started working in talent acquisition?
That's a really good question. So the answer is no. So our data scientist has a background in marketing. Our data analyst has a background also in marketing and just general data business intelligence. And I'm an IO psychologist, so I don't specialize specifically in talent acquisition, although, you know, HR nerd data has always been, you know, at like my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. What about you, Marlieke? Tell me about your team.
I think we're a mix of everything. We're literally a mix of everything. I think we have, so my background is in human research management, but I had no research experience whatsoever. Then we have people that are coming from, that have a data scientist background. We have people that have a consultancy background. We have people that have more like a strategy background. We have people with a psychology background. We have a full mix of everyone. And I always say the most important thing is to be passionate about what you do and be proactive, love research, and then, yeah, you'll make it work.
Excellent. What about you, Allison? Were you a data person or in the recruiting space? How did this path happen for you?
Yeah, so this path, I worked for Monster.com, and then I went into exec search, and then I kind of went into lots of different places, and I fell into talent intelligence. But if I look at the team that we've got, so we've got 10 full-time people, and then we've got the platform. The platform is driven by data engineers, data scientists, data analysts. You know, it's absolutely about big data, as you would expect. But if I look at the team, there's a lot of similarities to what Marlieke was saying. We have some people from an exec search background. We've got some people from talent acquisition background. We've got people from a market intelligence background and competitive intelligence background. All we want is curiosity. So we want, you know, somebody to ask a question, and it's almost as if someone asks a question, that conversation sparks, or you hear keyboards tapping because somebody goes, "Hey, that's really cool. What does that mean?" So yeah, we hire for curiosity.
That's awesome. Now I'm going to start this question with Allison, and I'm not going to ask all three of you this question, but I'm going to let you add to it. And if you want to add to what Allison says, or if you have a different spin, let me know. So we'll start with Allison. How do you define talent intelligence?
Oh, now this is actually, it's not, hopefully it won't be too far off between Marlieke and I, because all of us wrote a paper with Philips towards the beginning of this year, so hopefully we'll be a bit aligned. I read
that. That's cool. Yeah.
That's cool. So that's,
okay.
Hopefully we'll be aligned. So, yeah. But I think, so for me, it's about the application of external data that's available on skills, on locations, on geographies, in a business context. So it's the application of external skills and labor market data in a business context.
Anybody have another layer of that, or anything to add?
No, I think what Allison said is exactly what my point of view is as well. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, now I'm going to get a little bit more into the technology side. What tools are kind of go-to for a team like this or an individual? What do you guys think when you add all this data together? Where are the must-have sources? Let's go with Marlieke. We'll start with Marlieke.
Okay. Well, I think it depends a little bit on the type of research I'm working on and a problem that I'm trying to get answered. You know, for some problem statements or some research, you would use different sources. But I think that the main tools that I use on an average research study are, of course, LinkedIn Talent Insights. I cannot live without LinkedIn Talent Insights. Gartner Teleneuron. We use a lot of statistical websites, but also one of the biggest sources is also speaking to recruiters in the market to really validate findings. For competitor studies, a lot of company websites. But those are just a few. And I think on an average research study, I use around 60, 70 different resources.
Oh,
and
wow.
it also has to do with the fact that you want to validate your findings and you want to cross-check it. So yeah, I think that would be it for me.
Okay, excellent. What about you, Lyndon? What are your go-to resources?
So I think this is a weird question because it really depends on how your team's built up and what you're able to scale to. So a lot of ours, yeah, we've got your standard vendor tools that we use to get data like Talent Neuron, MZ, Drop, LinkedIn Talent Insights. We've got subscriptions and we've tried a bunch of them. So we have that. But then the other tools that we would be using involve, building Tableau and building our own dashboards, scraping our own data, using our own internal query search engines to kind of pull our own data from the internal side. So it's about blending all of those things together. So I think that's really going to also change like how you operate. And frankly, the cool things is like Google News feeds. You can get tons of cool stuff out of it.
Awesome. Excellent. So yeah, that's a good point. So I think the original definition was in external data, but if you're at a company like Verizon or Philips, you've got such huge workforce that it's probably important to include all of that in your analysis as well to kind of know where gaps exist. You guys can see that I don't stack our panels here at SeekOut. SeekOut can also be used for this, but I just wanted to bring you some great people today. So that'll be my only plug. All right, now tell me what, Lyndon, I think we always see, I've been around the sourcing space for a long time. I see people start sourcing teams in a good market, and then the minute the market turns, they shut the sourcing team down. Right. And then it's a cycle, right? I've known 3 people who have started sourcing functions at companies I already started a sourcing function in before, right? So it's a complete cycle. And I think it comes down to sometimes people have a hard time proving ROI of the function, right? So this is kind of an abstract function. So Lyndon, what advice would you give about the kind of the ROI? How do you, what information do you provide, and then how do you prove ROI on that?
So I think you're going to see, I said we were data nerds, so I'm going to follow through on that. Our ROI is totally data driven. So we would use things like the amount of data points we're looking at year over year, right? When you say, I'm looking at 5 jobs across across 400 MSAs, that's 5 times 400 times 4 variables, right? So I'm using those data points. How many data points are we going through every year over year for our studies? That's a great data point that we like to push out. We've got a couple of different things we look at also. The level of our requester, who our clients are, right? When you first start off, your clients are probably just going to be primarily lead recruiters, recruiting managers, and then when you build up your team, you're going to get VP and senior executive kind of requests. So the level of who our requesters are, the volume of requests, the complexity, and things like that are we tend to use as our ROI metric.
Tell me, Marlieke, would you add anything to that, or is that, how do you guys at Philips? I know Philips is one of the larger talent intelligence teams I've heard of. What problems are you solving, and how do you tie yourselves to the bottom line of the organization? So in a recession, you get to survive that recession. What's the strategy there?
So you mean by what kind of like products we're working on, and what type of business questions, or how we calculate the ROI?
I want to go into both. I asked the ROI question. Let's have you say ROI real quick, and then I want you all to tell me about the problems you're solving. So let's go with ROI so that it's consistent, and then we'll switch to the first part of that.
Okay. Well, I think if you really ask me about ROI, I'm not going to lie. This can be very, very difficult. I think the cost avoidance would be one of the key items. So what's the estimated financial or / commercial impact? And in some cases, our business has articulated very clearly a dollar or euro value of this business impact. So for example, when we would work on location studies, think about, well, you have 4 offices, but now everyone is working from home. So do you still need 4 offices, or you would like to bring this back to 2 offices? That business impact can be defined. Think about savings on lease, lower operating costs, and so on. However, in many cases, this business impact is more, it's more difficult to articulate in numbers, and then it becomes even tougher. However, as we are like a corporate talent intelligence function, we also look into the cost avoidance versus research firms. But having said this, really proving ROI of even defining KPIs for research projects, it can be challenging and still something we're trying to figure out, and we're still working on. If the cost can be defined, realization can be hard to grasp, and it's even more difficult to materialize it.
No, I love that answer. I mean, I think it is an abstract thing, right? So I'm sure it does take some creativity to always connect it. Allison, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, so we developed a skills availability and accessibility calculator for exactly this reason, because I guess if you're selling a platform, if you're running a consultancy, you've got to be able to stand up and say, this is the value add that you're going to get, Mr. or Mrs. Client, off the back of that. And so the calculator looks at a whole bunch of stuff, but it looks at things like what's the market relativity of a particular skill set and how important is that to you as an organization. We wrap up total cost. So you've got cost per seat that includes office-based retail, and prime office rental and commercial costs. We include in that stuff like lost productivity days. So what's your time to hire, and therefore what's your lost productivity days? And then we calculate that if you're allowed for team growth and attrition. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we bung into this skills availability and accessibility calculator, because a bit like Philips, we fundamentally know that we have to give a dollar value to every piece of work that we do and deliver.
Yeah, that's great. Now, Lyndon, you mentioned kind of when you start, you're working with the lead recruiters and you kind of make your way up. And I'm sure there's kind of a maturity model, right? We're going to try this talent intelligence thing. There's one person, right? And then as the function matures, it expands. Can you kind of walk us through that a little bit? Like, what do the projects look like at the lead recruiter level? And then what kind of things, as you get more deeply embedded and the trust grows in the function, what do you move into?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a couple of layers there to unpack. So I would say when you first start off, your research questions are going to be basic, and they're going to be very much limited to whatever your sources are. So if you're using Talent or on SeekOut, Talent Intuition, any of those things, it's going to be basically locked into whatever those vendor partners that you have are able to provide, right? So it's going to be, copy paste, adjust branding, right, and make some notes here and there. But when you start off, it's going to be a lot of that initial upfront stuff. It's going to be at the requisition level. It's going to be saying a senior analyst. It's going to be looking at 1 or 2 roles, right? It's not at a macro level where I'm talking about enterprise level changes or workforce planning. And so I think that's where you start to see the shift once you start to build your credibility and your team scales and your skills and everything start to solidify. You're going to move away from the single requisition with a problem statement. I don't know where to find the developer, to where do I find developers because I'm going to have this requisition come up, to I need to hire in 2021, build a workforce planning strategy and a talent acquisition strategy. That's in 6 months. Tell me what we should be doing. And I think that's the progression that you're going to end up seeing as your teams start to mature and develop.
Very cool. All right, Marlieke, what about what it sounds like your organization is pretty advanced. So you mentioned like location studies, right? So where do we put all these people? Can you give us an example of some things that have come up for the Philips team?
Oh yeah, we have a lot of examples. I cannot talk about all of them, but
of course. We don't want to get you in trouble, right? Just thematically, like what kinds of things do you do that you can talk about?
I think we work on M&A human capital due diligence projects.
Right. Wow.
So if we might want to acquire a company, we need to know more about that company from a talent perspective. We work on quite a lot of organizational design and role mapping. So how are other organization structures and what can we learn from that? Where are the gaps, where are opportunities and where are risks? One of my favorites are human capital-based location studies. So that's the example that I just gave, but it can also be countrywide. So let's say, I don't know, you want to open an artificial intelligence center of excellence. Where are you going to do that? Are you going to do that at your HQ in America? Are you going to do that, I don't know, in a low-cost country in Latin America? Are you going to do that in the Netherlands or maybe in Poland, India, China, Australia? Where are you going to do that? So really seeking, okay, where is the talent availability? What is the cost? What's the quality? What's the forecast? For location studies, you also more use type as location ecosystem, maybe English proficiency. Maybe you wanted to set up a customer service center and they need to speak French, German. You know, is that available? University insights, comparisons of those locations from an infrastructure perspective. So you can go really, really deep. And custom reports, which literally can be anything, can be around diversity or specific topic. And my other favorite is competitor intelligence, but also then from the human capital perspective. So really deep diving into what are the competitors doing, what are the open vacancies, what type of skills, where are they moving towards to, where is the current workforce, what are the fastest growing locations. And yeah, this is just like in a nutshell, some type of projects where we're looking into, and within those projects, you can look into a variety of parameters depending on the problem statement and the scope and what you're trying to get answered.
That is awesome. Very cool. Now, Allison, what I think you see, these people have very deep experience with some very sophisticated organizations, and then you're going around seeing, as a consultant, you're seeing a lot of different things. Anything that they left out that you've seen coming up?
Well, I guess there's two things. So we built strategies for exactly the kind of mature curve, the top of the maturity curve. So we talk about joining the dots between skills, location, infrastructure, political environment, and really kind of the Phillips scenarios. And so the sorts of things that we're delivering are exactly those sorts of questions. If we are going to relocate our shared service center from X to Y, where should Y be? So the really big strategic questions. If we have a challenge with our skills supply, so this kind of links into your strategic workforce planning. Do we put a physical hub somewhere? Do we have a collaborative hub somewhere, or do we tie this into our M&A activity? And much more of the DD. What structure should we be? We're answering some really big questions, and some of that's through straight platform, and some of that's through consultancy work. But we tend to not be involved in the, hey, where's my best place to hire a developer? It tends to be the kind of big questions that have a fundamental impact on business strategy and performance.
That's awesome. No, that's amazing, you guys. Now, so SeekOut, a lot of our followers and people that we interact with are, they're really technically savvy, and they love to stack one tool on top of another, and they're kind of hackerish. They're the hackers of the talent acquisition space, really. Anybody have any interesting stories when you build this Tableau? Like, what tools are you stacking on top of each other? I always hear, like there's skills data here, but then there's SIC codes here, then there's salary information here. Let's excite our tech geeks a little bit, Lyndon. What all have you seen stacked on top of each other that helps give you these broad visualizations that you're going for?
Yeah, that's a great thing. And I can't go into too much fun, juicy detail. What I could tell you is that, I mentioned before that if you're not at a place where you can really advance what you're looking at, you're going to be looking at requisitions, right? Individual level kind of thing. The important thing, and what we've seen, and I've realized, is that many organizations don't have their own internal data set up and structured in a way that they can actually aggregate appropriately. So your SIC codes, your Bureau of Labor Statistics, ONET SIC codes, SOC codes rather, those are aggregations. It's a classification model, right, based on skills and requirements. Most companies don't have that with their internal data. So I think the cool thing, one of the big things that we have been working on as a project for a very long time is our own internal taxonomy and building that out so we can aggregate. And once you have that lined up, locked in sync with the market, like, I mean, just imagine what you can do if things all lined up, right? A developer was a developer was a developer. What's the difference in the skills? I could tell you what's happening internally, externally, and what the difference is at an enterprise level, not at the 15 jobs that that are giving you a hard time. So that's like, without going into crazy details about
yeah,
that's fine.
Connecting that internal data with the external data is the challenge I think everyone has right now. You know, I describe it as like a high-rise building. You know, you've got all these tools. You've got the HRMS, the ATS, the CRM, LinkedIn, you know, Career Builder, Indeed, SeekOut, right? And you're building this huge tower, right? How can you see all that data in one place? I think is what everybody's trying to run to make decisions now. What have I not asked you guys about that you think is important? I'm here, I'm moderating today, and these people are much more. I'm normally moderating something I'm pretty deep in. This is kind of new for me. So humbly speaking, what did I leave out? What do you guys, we've got 2 minutes left. What would you say?
I think it follows on from Lyndon's question or Linda's conversation, which is the power in this stuff comes when you combine internal and external data. That's when actually you can really start to model and you can scenario plan and make some really big decisions. And yeah, I'm not going to plug it again, but we do a whole bunch of stuff on the external data through Strategens. But the power is the two combined. But at the moment, the reporting lines, I think, prevent that from happening. Yeah. And if you think about people analytics typically will report up through an HR function and then up through a CIO typically. So that's kind of, you know, a normal structure. But talent intelligence still sits in talent acquisition. So I guess it's, you know, what is the reporting line and what should it be to maximize, you know, success for the guys and girls that are using SeekOut, and, you know, everything else is what should that reporting line be in order to maximize success.
No, that's great parting. So where do you go to learn more about talent intelligence and interact with the community? I don't want to invite them to where I found you. I don't know how private that place is. Anybody? Is that
the white paper?
Yeah, there's a great white paper. Where do you download the white paper from, Phillips?
Well, you can download it definitely from my LinkedIn. I think, Allison, you have it on your website as well. And maybe,
why don't I tweet it? Why don't we? We'll tweet it with the SeekOut Live hashtag in just a bit. So if one of you guys could email that to me, I'll tweet it with the SeekOut Live hashtag for you guys who want to follow that.
The Talent Intelligence Collective podcast, Toby Colshaw, Nick Brooks, and I co-hosting. We get to talk to some amazing people about
awesome.
intelligence and what they're doing. And Lyndon Llanes is on next week, I believe. So
that is awesome. Good deal.
Collective podcast. It's a great place.
Amazing. And so thank you all for being here today. If you guys, we're streaming this on Facebook. Be sure to like our page. We're going to do something every Friday for you guys. So like the Facebook page for SeekOut, and then if you are on the Zoom webinar, like our Facebook page as well, because that way, if you forget to RSVP for this, you'll always be notified. But thank you very much to the three of you for coming and sharing this. This is just 30 minutes. We can only go so deep, but it's a great overview. One last thing, could I get one of you? There are a lot of recruiters out there who are like, okay, I've been recruiting for 10 years. I love the data side. You know, how do I change it up a little bit, right? Everybody needs some change. How would you guys recommend kind of making this transition if somebody's interested? Should you try to influence from within and get that responsibility, or should you, you know, are there enough jobs out there to do it? Lyndon, what would you say to somebody like that?
I would say, you know, first, definitely easier to work within and build that credibility and partnership. So is there a team doing this sort of work? can you do a stretch assignments? Can you work with them? And can you, start to build from there? And also if you haven't got the technical background or the research background, build it, like start learning. You're not great at Excel. You're not great at building a model. Start asking people questions, watch, learn, and you'll get better. And you'll start to say like, oh, okay, I can see how this tool was built. I understand how this was done. These are the questions or things that they are not answering or things I need to be careful of. Just by doing that, you will get so much better and more capable than many other people who are just going to say like, I ran a regression, and it means nothing.
Yep. Any coding languages, or is it more data and Excel based?
I don't think you need to know coding. We do coding a little bit, and frankly, I think we're a pretty technical team, and you can get really, really far with just being really good at being analytically savvy and knowing how to ask the right questions. You've got SeekOut and Talent Intuition here, who can help you partner with the data science and the engineering on the back end. You just got to have the right questions for them.
That's awesome. All right, you guys, thank you for your time. I appreciate all of you being here. This was a great session. And to all of you out there, get a restful weekend. If you're in the States, turn off the news and enjoy your weekend. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye.